I love organizing things. Like, I've got this core memory from when I was a kid. I think I had to have been 4 or 5 years old at the time. And I took all my little action figures and I lined them up on the shelf of the toy box. I literally like stood them, balanced them carefully on their feet so they all stood. And I stacked all my little cars in front of them all in a row. And of course, the next day it was all a mess. But that process of neatly laying everything out really clicked with my brain, and it still does. And that's why it has always bugged me that I have carried my tools around in this think tank bag. Now, this is not a video about the think tank bag. I like the think tank bag a lot. Like, I can see what's in it. I can get in there. It really works with my backpack, but I don't like that all my stuff is so I'm so excited to show you what I'm going to show you today. I'm Joshua Bardwell, and you're going to learn something. Ooh, organization, bags, zippers. So excited. This is my new toolkit. And in a second, I'm going to open it up for you. And you're either going to go, dopamine, and you're going to want to watch the rest of the video, or you're going to go, this Bardwell's so impressed about. And maybe you'll still watch the rest of the video. I don't know. But here we go. Ready? The big reveal. You think I'm hamming this up for the camera. I am a little bit, but only a little bit. This is everything I bring with me when I travel. I have everything in here that I would need to like literally build a whole quadcopter if I had to. So what we're going to do in this video is we're going to go through and we're going to look at the things that I take with me. And if you're trying to build a travel toolkit or a field toolkit, not everybody has the same tools that I do, but maybe you'll find some insight here. But also I'm going to just brag to you really about this awesome case that I found. Because here's the thing. I love that I can just go somewhere like I'm working. I need to get some jobs, something done. And I just boop, and here's all my tools ready to go. I love that. I love that I don't have to dig through a bag and try to find the thing I'm looking for. But what I hate is that toolkits like this are actually really inefficient in their use of space. You see, I've been looking at these like motorcycle tool rolls for a long time, and they hold all the tools like this, but they roll up, and you just have so much space taken up because of the fabric that they're enormous, and you can't really stuff them into a backpack like I have. But this is really the best of both worlds, because you can see we've got all the tools organized. And yeah, it takes up a little more space than the two separate bags that I had. Because those two separate bags, they just kind of compress down and squish down when you put them in the backpack. They don't take up any more room than the tools themselves. So it takes up a little more space, but not that much more. And oh my God. So I'll put a link to this exact bag down in the video description below. I think it's just about perfect. And maybe you will too. But in the meantime, let's go through and take a look at the tools that I bring with me when I go on a trip. And let's just get this out of the way. This is a Leatherman Wave. I have had a Leatherman Wave in my possession for at least the last 15 years. I think it's the perfect Leatherman. Here on the outside, we've got a screwdriver with bits, and we won't be using that very much because we actually have screwdrivers in the kit. They're a little more ergonomical, and I think they're worth the space. We've got a can opener, very nice, bottle opener, another screwdriver here, a little micro jeweler's screwdriver here, and a scissors. These are really nice to have because sometimes there's things that you want to cut with a scissors that aren't as convenient to cut with a knife. But of course, the number one reason I keep the Leatherman in here is because it has pliers, and sometimes there's things you want to grip with the pliers that aren't easy to grip with some of the other tools that I've got. And of course, on the outside, there are various cutting and filing blades. A Leatherman is just really, really good bang for buck in terms of the utility you get out of it for the space and weight that it takes up. Next to that, I've got this utility knife or hobby knife. The replaceable 9mm blade can get into places that the Leatherman blades can't. For example, if you're repinning a JST connector and you need a little thin blade to lift up the tabs, the blades break off so that you can just get a new sharp one whenever you want, and they're easy to replace. In fact, it's really time for me to replace this one, actually. I feel like forceps are an essential part of building quadcopters. There's so many little fiddly things you have to work with, reach in between some wires to fish a wire underneath your flight controller and so forth. And I really like to have with me too, a little blunt-nosed straight one and a longer nosed hook one. I just find myself using these again and again and again. I love the fact that they clamp shut. And so if you need to sort of hold something, you don't have to continually apply pressure to it in order to sort of manipulate it. On the other hand, sometimes you don't want that, and instead you want something like this. This is a tweezers, and again, it's a cross-lock tweezers so that it automatically closes itself, but it doesn't clamp down quite as hard. Like sometimes the forceps will damage the insulation on a wire that I'm soldering, and this is just a little bit looser. All of them are useful in their own way. Next, we come to this tool, and I am not sure I would buy this tool again. I'm not sure I would recommend you to buy it. I actually just got this tool, and I'm still evaluating it. So it's in my toolkit now, but I may take it out later. So this is the actual entire kit. It comes with a handle, of course, and a bunch of bits. And it is nice. The bits come in this plastic case, and they come with this 3D printed base, so they can all go in there and they can just kind of stand up. And I kind of dig that. A lot of interchangeable bit tools, one of the things I don't like is that the bits are just kind of rattling around and you kind of got to dig through them to find the one you want. This keeps the bits very neatly organized. But the reason that I'm not taking the whole thing with me is a lot of these bits aren't commonly used on quadcopters. So here's a 3 and a 4 millimeter hex. Those I think are more used on like RC cars. And then we've got some nut drivers here and various sizes that aren't that common. The only nut driver I commonly travel with is a 5.5 millimeter that drives M3 nuts, and that's useful for like putting your stack screws on and such. But the bigger ones all the way up to 8 millimeters, which is what prop nut, but I have a dedicated tool for prop nuts, and so I wouldn't, this isn't going to give you a lot of torque anyway. What I wanted when I bought this tool was a really basic grip that holds these 1/4-inch drivers. And then the drivers needed to be long and interchangeable. I really dislike the kind of driver with the little tiny bits because you'll pull the driver off the screw or the nut and it'll leave the bit behind. Whereas with these, the bit locks in and it's going to stay in place. And this fits the bill, but I'm not sure that I would recommend it for 2 reasons. Number one, with shipping, it's like $10 or $15 shipping. I don't know, maybe I expedited it. But with shipping, this thing cost me like $70. And like, you can just tell this is not a $70. Like, you could get a great set of MIP drivers for less than that, but they wouldn't have come with this nice freaking handle. And it did come with like a whole bunch of bits in one set that I actually want to use. So I'm like on the fence. I don't think it's worth $70. And I'm sure if I had looked harder, I could have found a $20 Chinese ripoff that does the same thing. I'm not even sure about the quality of the bits. Like, I don't know. They seem like they're machined okay, but only time is really going to tell like how good they come out. They've just got a feel to them. I'm not sure how to put it. They have a feel to them like there's a coating on them or something, and like they're not actually going to hold up. I don't know. That's just speculation. I don't feel great about having spent $70 on it, but having spent that money and not really knowing of a good alternative for a nice low profile handle like this, I guess I'm going to stick with it. If you know a better choice that I could have gone with, then by all means tell me in the comments, and I will I'll put it in the video. There's links to all this stuff in the video description if you guys are looking to pick up any of these tools. And I'll put a link to the cheaper, better alternative in the video description. I would pay $70 for this if I was getting like good quality bits, Maybe these are good quality bits. Maybe I shouldn't be so hard. These have a feel, and I feel like I overpaid. The other side of the container is my soldering supplies. So here we've got, actually travel with 2 soldering irons. Because why? Because I don't know. They don't take up that much space, and I like having a spare. It means that when I'm working, I can take one of them and I can put in like a smaller bit, and I can take the other one and put in like a bigger bit, a tip bit, and I can be working with both of them at the same time, or I have a spare if one like stops working or has a problem. It's probably overkill, but it doesn't take that much space. We've got here a Flux pen, and we've got here a little solder rolls. This container actually came with one of my soldering tips, and I just literally took the soldering iron tip and I spooled up a bunch of solder off of a big roll just so I could have it with me, because you can buy travel solder, but a lot of times it's low quality. This is high quality Kester solder, and it's just made my own little spool. Of course, we have a diagonal cutter, and we have soldering iron tips. And my soldering iron tips that I like to travel with are not what I have in front of me. Hold on, something's gone wrong here. So this is my sort of daily driver tip. It is a 2.4 millimeter chisel tip. I think it's D24 is what they call it. This one is been corrupted by some. I soldered on these wires, and the tip has never worked right since. There must have been something in or on the wires. And I meant to order spares, but I seem to have ordered the wrong spares, because these are two different chisel tips or bevel tips. So normally what I'll have is a 2.4 millimeter chisel tip and a bigger bevel tip for heavier wire, for larger wires. I will need to order the correct ones, because these are not right. Coming to this pocket, I've got a couple things in here. One is this little OmniFixo third hand tool. This is brilliant. It just is a little tool that magnetically with friction holds wires exactly where you put them. It's brilliant. I have a bigger one with 4 little clips for my bench at home, but I travel with this one, and it's well worth the size. This is the power cable for my soldering iron, and this is a brass sponge for cleaning my soldering iron. And I actually bought a bunch of these little screw top containers of the exact right size to hold the sponge, because little metal bits get into the sponge and then they all come out all over your backpack if you don't have a top for it. This is also a great place to rest the soldering iron when you're working, if you need a rest. Oh, great. Look, it's happened. See? Shame. And then on this side, what do we got? A few little odds and ends. We've got a smoke stopper. I think that's all I've got in there. That will fill up with more little odds and ends, I'm sure. And then finally, thank goodness we got this outer pocket here, because that's where I put my travel multimeter. And this is not a spectacular multimeter, but it does fit into the container very easily. It's got the wires all coiled up, and it closes up and is nice and compact. But I don't take it out that often, so I keep it in that separate pouch. And that is my travel toolkit. I literally, after years and years of being on the road, starting in like 2018, 2019, when I started traveling for Rotoride, and since then, this is what I have sort of refined myself down to. And anytime I'm on a trip and I need to fix something and I don't have the tool that I need, I go and I find a way to add it. And after every, couple months, or every maybe as much as a year, I go through it and I'm like, do I really need this? Like right now I'm thinking, do I really need 2 soldering irons, or is that just overkill, Bardwell? And I'm thinking about pulling one of those soldering irons out. And this is what I've come to after a fair amount of refining. I do want to acknowledge, like, there's other people out there who I've traveled with who have different things in their kit. Some things that I look at and go, oh, that's not worth the space. And other things that I look at and go, oh, that was a good idea. I'm stealing that. So like, I'm not saying this is the ultimate definitive guide, but it is something. And if you're starting from scratch, you may want to pick up some of this stuff as a starting point. If you do want to do that, there's links in the video description below. And yeah, you guessed it, they're affiliate links. Is that why I made this video? No, I made this video because I'm so happy with this pouch, and I just want to share it with you and brag about how beautiful my new baby is. But if you do use those affiliate links, I'll get a little bit of money, and it does mean a lot because it adds up. That's it. See you in the next one. Happy flying.